I just left out saying SMAC is an acronym within Cognizant, where we use what we use as an acronym stands for social, mobile, analytics, and cloud, right? And you know, we've had brilliant presentations from Dr. Bartos, from Scott, and from Raghu, from my friends on Source Solutions and Accenture. Each one of them brilliant, and you know, we're going to be touching about all of them. But I'll try to make it very interesting, using examples of having engaged with a multitude of customers who would want many aspects of this, right, just to get a little interesting. And having flown in from Bangalore, this is the time that we get most jet lag. So, you know, I'd love your you know, attention span so that, you know, we can make it very engaging. Before I move on, you know, I want to talk a little bit about Cognizant. Cognizant as a company has been in existence for 20 years now. We have about 178,000 people spread all over the world across 85 countries, and we're going to possibly close this year with about $10 billion of revenue. I also want to touch upon the, you know, Dr. Bartos spoke about the organizational development, right, the OD design, right? I want to talk about how Cognizant has been structured so that, you know, when we talk about the innovator's dilemma, or many of the aspects that I know some of our colleagues have covered, I want you to know how we at Cognizant have done it very differently. We've adopted the 3 horizon model across you know, the verticals on the horizontal structures that we have. Horizon 1 is focusing on the businesses that, you know, it's a bread and butter for us. It's a very mature businesses. These are the services that we do for many of our industry verticals like banking, financials, like healthcare, insurance, and you know, products and resources like that subsumes retail, manufacturing, logistics, travel, hospitality, and da-da-da. And then we have a horizontal structure that, that has got a niche technology or a business focus, you know, like the SAP practice or the corporate functions as well. That constitutes the Horizon 1. It's a very mature, we've been doing it for 20 years, you know, it's a very well-oiled machinery within Cognizant. And then we invested in businesses, you know, about 5-6 years back, in infrastructure services, in BP organizations, in many of these aspects, which are reaping benefits in terms of you know, profits and revenues, a much higher level than the Horizon 1, right? That's classified into Horizon 2. On the other end is Horizon 3, where you know, we are investing in new paradigms. SMAC is one of the new paradigms, as we call it, new business models, right, now, so that we can reap the benefits sometime tense in the future, right? So, you know, as Dr. Bartos pointed out, you know, the innovator's dilemma is, you know, what to do. The organization velocity, or the velocity of the information technology is quite different from the velocity at which the industrial technology is moving, right? But if you can actually look inwards, even within our own organizations, one part of the organization wants to do much better at what they're doing. The other part of my organization wants to run at a much higher velocity, right? So the dilemma exists not just across industries, it exists within my own company, our own companies, right? And this is what you know, we've been doing very effectively at Cognizant. We have this thing called run better and run different, right? Run better is to be more productive, be more efficient in what you are actually doing, right? Run different is make another part of the organization, you know, move at a much faster organizational velocity than the rest of your organization, and you have a joint KPI or you know, targets for run better and for run different, right? This enthuses your departments to have best of both worlds, right? And you know, we've got accolades from about you know, 1,000+ customers of us at that this program called Run Better and Run Different has been phenomenally effective when we present ourselves to our customers. So that much about Cognizant. I'm going to talk to you about what we've trademarked called Code Halos, right? I'm going to talk to you about that, And then I'm going to talk to you about a model that you can actually, some of my conversations we had before this, before the event started with some of our colleagues over here, is to say, what is the ROI of SMAC, right? From that what question to whys, I'll actually get on to the nuts and bolts of how SMAC can be employed, used without being expensive. Taking baby steps. It's probably a combination of the leapfrog or a crawl, sit, and walk. There's no one size fit all, where it's probably a combination of all of them. And then we'll actually get onto the nuts and bolts of how your organization can be digitally transformed. And this is very striking, right? When there are more than 10 times as many photos taken, last year, Kodak went bankrupt. More news generated than ever before, but yet large publishing organizations are getting bankrupt or reducing their frequency of publishing. This is very striking. I'm going to use this as an example for the model that we've trademarked, right? Why would it happen when there's an increase in the business need, but yet organizations being in this business are failing? But something has to be fundamentally wrong, right? And I mean, I've gotten some interesting visuals, and I'm sure you can see the visuals over there, right? Something has to be fundamentally wrong, right? And we found out that many of the firms are geared for the past and not for the future. We've seen this in a multitude of presentations before myself, right? Data, devices, people, products are creating what we call as code halos or data, right? Code halos is a trademark concept within Cognizant. It's just not about data from one source of one type, but it's a multitude of types, as presented by Scott before. It's a multitude of data sources, right? But most importantly, the way in which we tap information out of our code halos is going to be extremely important for our organizations. And this has really been made possible, we believe, is because we've carried our virtual lives into our physical lives, right? It's just not about a Google Glass. It's just not about the mobile devices. But even in brick and mortar industries like Disneyland, has come up with a magic band that it extremely transforms the way your experience is, when you go to a Disney theme park, right? You could with just at the snap of a wrist, you could buy food. You can deposit. You can have your lockers in. You could have many services all integrated, and we spoke a lot about integration in the previous sessions, are integrated to provide a seamless and a rich experience to the end consumers. That's for the consumer point of view. But what's in it for Disney, right? They use it, not only to understand the consumer, their consumers better, they also use it for managing their own efficiencies. Typically, when we enter a theme park, people typically go clockwise. They go to the various attractions in a clockwise fashion, and this is very bad for Disney because your load is always in one of the attractions in the clockwise directions, right? So Disney effectively uses the magic band to locate exactly where you are in the theme park and direct you to saying that you visited ABC attractions. You probably need to visit D, and D would be free at 2 p.m. and probably want to have lunch now, right? So that sort of intelligent, efficient manner, managing of your crowd, it's becoming extremely effective and productive for Disneyland. right? And I mean, the examples can be really multiplied. I mean, you're talking of Amazon. Amazon, you know, asks some critical questions about you, and then there is an algorithm called the Betterizer that suggests you know, possible other stuff you know, that you might like. And this is not like a cross-sell or an upsell, where if you buy a table, you're most likely to buy a chair as well. It's more of you buy this pair of shoes, you will most likely buy, you know, an ice cream as well. I mean, there is absolutely disjointed relationship between an ice cream and a pair of shoes, right? But it's what is called the collaborative filtering, based on people's interests, based on people's voluntarily publishing their likes and dislikes. The collaborative filtering algorithm works, right? Or it could be a progressive snapshot. You know, Progressive is a large insurance company. All right, what they've done is, you know, they have got a small device called Snapshot. You know, if you go and, you know, you stick this inside the device inside your vehicle, it actually transmits information about, you know, your driving habits, what are the type of road you travel, what times of the day you travel, and over a period of a year, they had about 50,000 miles of driving data with them, right? And then they came up with a lot of insights with the data that they had. The data predominantly spoke about at what times of the day or night would the accidents most occur, right? In that particular area of the geography of your existence, right? This is not about the sensor being at the device, but it's about safe driving habits, right? And I mean, and many of the examples that I'm going to be talking about is going to be having a recurring theme of not laying a brick, but building a temple, right? Or building a larger purpose-driven organization, right? Be it sustainability, be it you know, clean energy, be it larger productivity issues, be it, you know, for a hospital. We developed an application for them where we said, what do you want to do with this mobile app? You know, they said, you know, we just want to make it easy for our staff, our nurses, so that they don't have to have all paper written stuff. But then on consistent you know, engagement with them, we found out that, you know, they had a larger purpose. They wanted to reduce the mortality rate within the hospital, right? So it's not about a mobile app or a social you know, Facebook page, but it's about, you know, the larger purpose that we are going to solve using these technology paradigms. And the examples can be multiplied, and this change, this paradigm shift is happening in a multitude of industries as we are speaking. I'm going to talk to you about the various types of code halos as we've tried to bucket them, right? We've tried to bucket them under 5 different types. You know, we've got the customer code halos, the data about our customers. We've got the product code halos, the employee code halos, the vendor partner code halos, and most importantly, the organizational code halo. You know, these 5 buckets, right? I'm going to be spending a few minutes on each of them. Customer relationships have never been more important, right? Now, just like the way the algorithm of Amazon is much more powerful, it's been made powerful because of the data that we provide to them, right? So it's that give to get sort of a principle is becoming extremely insightful for the organization, and extremely tailored N=1 personalized experiences for us as consumers, right? So it's a win-win sort of a situation for both for the enterprises and for the consumers. Employee data is extremely important because you know, at the end of the day, many of the organizations, the employee is the greatest asset that we have, be it in terms of knowledge, be it in terms of intellectual property, be it in terms of processes, be it in terms of the DNA of the organization, as we call them. Because, you know, a person who's been with the organization for 20 years, you know, well knows the culture and the DNA of the organization than a new person. So how do you inculcate this sort of a DNA of the culture into a new employee who's going to be joining into our organization, right? Culture, I mean, many of you would believe, cannot be taught. It has to be imbibed, right? How do you make it possible for new employees to come and gel with the larger organizations? Products, and we've spoken a lot about Internet of Everything. Internet of Things, right? Now, we spoke about GE turbines generating 588 GB of data. Actually, each blade generates as much data as all of Twitter. I mean, each blade of a turbine generates 80 GB of data every day. Now, what does it mean? You know, if only 0.5% of the data is being used to create insights, right? Does it actually mean that you know, we are not using the data properly, or is there a potential or an opportunity for us to use the data more effectively, right? That's one side of the question. The other side of the question is, you know, there are sensors, there are these opportunities where the sensors transmit a humongous amount of information into a centralized location, right? Now, the sensors are not necessarily located within the ambit of the organization or within the shop floor of a manufacturing company. They are permeating beyond. They are permeating beyond from, you know, from the aircraft engines, you know, while a mile of flight that they have generates more information than all of Twitter in a day, or even you know, personal grooming devices like a toothbrush. I was taking this example early this morning with some of my colleagues who were discussing this this morning while having breakfast. It says if a smart toothbrush can have sensors to detect what are your hygiene habits, right? What are your you know, hygiene history, your dental history, right? Now, it's the toothbrush itself is a commodity, right? The algorithms, the data that the toothbrush can potentially generate is more value than the commodity toothbrush, right? Now, this is the aspect we need to recognize, right? Now, when Steve Jobs he released the iPhone, right? He said, "I'm going to give you the power to your fingers," right? He laid a lot of emphasis on the phone per se. But a couple of years down the line, during one of the interviews, he mentioned that I underestimated the ecosystem of the apps that the iPhone created because the ecosystem is far, far more valuable than the device per se, right? Now, how do we get our organizations to tap insights, to get into these algorithms, right? To do business insights is what I'm going to be talking about the rest of the slides. Partner information. I mean, I'll give an example. When I was talking to P&G, they have this Connect Plus program, right? Now, P&G has a large conglomerate. You know, if you can, I mean, one of the data points suggests that more than 50% of all of their products produced is done fully by one of their vendor ecosystems or partner ecosystems, right? Now, I mean, this is a very tricky stuff because you know, partners, well, we partner with our vendors, we do expect something very tangible output from them, right? It's just not about virtual stuff, but the value webs that they create, you know, to form, be part of our business ecosystem is going to be tremendously more valuable than the tangible outputs that they're going to be providing. So I've taken a few logos, and we have discussed in you know, in many of our presentations before. You know, we've spoke these logos, right? There is a reason why I have taken these companies in particular, because they are S&P outliers. They have been they were very new entrants in the market when established businesses were already there. They have been extremely effective in tapping the potential of code halos across multiple paradigms, across multiple buckets of information, and make insights out of them. And together, their market cap is more than $1 trillion. I mean, I'm talking of about 6 or 7 logos over here, right? And each of them, in their own way, have tapped the value or the potential of Code Halo and provided a richness in experience, right? They've provided extremely tailored, personalized experience. They have been able to derive operational benefits, right, of having tapped Code Halo, right? And they've got an exponential growth, the hockey stick growth, as Raghu spoke of early in this morning, right? Without much ado, I'd like to go into the model that I spoke of, right? It's a very it's a very simple model, but extremely potential, right? We call it the the crossroads model. So we start this. The model starts with it's a 5-phase model. Phase called the ionization, right? And much of the ionization phase is about setting the context for a very fertile innovation to happen. I mean, and this goes much into what the brilliant presentation that Dr. Bartos presented, right? We have to have a combination of run better and run different. You need to have the train moving. You need to have your businesses running, yet you need to innovate, right? And innovation is not just about an Albert Einstein, but it could be a Thomas Alva Edison as well. The reason I talk to them as two different extremes is Thomas Alva Edison improvised on a certain idea, which is not created by himself, 100 times before he could invent the light, right? And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Albert Einstein, which was like phenomenal, blue ocean. It's not the red ocean stuff. It's the E is equal to mc squared became very revolutionary overnight, right? You have to have innovation at both ends of the spectrum. You cannot neglect a delta improvisation on the aspects that you have. You need to be having that going on, but you need to have the blue ocean stuff as well. I mean, it has to be a combination of the red and the blue oceans. And we as leaders in our organization, we have to set a very fertile bed for our employees, for our vendors, our partners, our stakeholders to be able to innovate, right? Neither in the extremes or across the spectrum. A spark happens when you detect an idea. An idea happens when code halos collide, when the product data, the customer data collide. You might probably have a new product idea. When the partner's data and your customer data collide, you could probably have a new service offering, right? When code halos collide, they create business opportunities, right? And once we sense these business opportunities, they have to be fostered and in this phase, in the spark phase. You identify the spark. This is where the business case get prepared. This is where you sniff this as an idea which is going to be really, really big in the potential. And then the enrichment is when you make a spark into a blazing forest fire, right? You take this idea, you run with it, you invest in it, right? Many a times what I've seen is this is the phase where you don't get much of the business benefits. You've put in your money, the team has been really working hard to get their idea, the business case has been approved, but there's no tangible outcome as yet. You probably have the product near ready, but there are no takers for it. You possibly don't see, will I really get the ROI for the investment I've made in this spark, right? It's a very, very uncertain and an uncomfortable sort of a situation where you've put in your money as a CEO or a business head, but you're not reaping benefits as yet. And then the crossroad happens. This is a period where it's usually a very short span of time, about 1 to 3 years. This is a period where there is a sudden traction of your idea. Your idea really kicks off big time. There's a lot of interest from your customers, from your stakeholders. You start seeing money flowing in, and there is a huge, probably this is where the hockey stick curve happens. In terms of your revenue, profits, intellectual property, and all of the benefits that you're going to be talking about. Now, what I've been talking of is a situation where company B is going through. But this is also a situation where if you do not recognize this spark, if you do not recognize where, if you're not making actionable insights from the data that you already have, you're going to see markets flipping, right? You're going to be seeing new entrants who have been in as competitions to you. They are going to be overtaking you, right? Markets will flip if you do not sense this potential. And I'll talk to you about this with a case study that I have. You're probably not seeing this, the graphs. I'll talk to you about what's written there. This is a graph where, the orange line is the line of Amazon. The other two lines are Borders and Barnes & Noble put together. So when Amazon went public in 1997, right, in spite of their lofty evaluations, Barnes & Noble and Borders collectively were 8 times bigger in terms of market value. They were about 50 times bigger in terms of revenues and 100 times bigger in terms of customer base. This was 1997, in spite of the lofty evaluations. They ran with the idea, and in about 2002 is when they hit the crossroads, right? In 2002, 5 years after they went public, they were twice as much as Barnes & Noble and Borders put together in terms of the numbers that I just spoke of. That was in 2002. Sorry, that was in 2005, right? That was in 2005, sorry. By 2010, in 5 years from there, they grew to about 100 times bigger than both Barnes & Noble and Borders put together, and Borders filed for bankruptcy. And that is the period where, post the crossroads model, is when the markets flipped, right? And Amazon became a much, much larger organization than Barnes & Noble and Borders put together. This example can be multiplied across many of the industries that we are in. I mean, if you take Apple and Nokia, for example, or Samsung and Apple and Nokia, if you plot the graphs of the market potential over the years, you could find a very similar model, coming out of it as well. In olden days, miners used to they carry a small bird, a canary, all right, into the field mines. Can any of you guess why they do this? Canaries have this ability to detect extremely minute variations in carbon monoxide, right? The moment the canary is uncomfortable inside the mine, the miners get out, right? And before they get out, the canaries most often die, right? But that's a distress signal to the organization, right? Now, as we as business leaders, are we carrying our canaries with us? It's a question that we need to ask ourselves, right? If we are not, we better identify our canaries, right? Because many of the businesses are at the crossroads model as I speak with you today. We have a choice to get into the code rush, or very similar to the gold rush that happened in California in the 19th century, or we get into what we call as an extinction event, as that of Borders and Barnes & Noble or Nokia, right? So we are at that crossroads. We have to make sense out of the code halo, tap the potential. I mean, if it's 0.5% of insights that we get from the data that is available, we've got a humongous opportunity in front of us, right? How do we actually put this to use? What I do for a living is basically I go and talk to the various business and IT and innovation leaders across the world, and talk and throw the art of possible to them as to what they can potentially do. How can they smackify their organization, right? Many a times when I go to business leaders, they say, hey, you know what, my CEO has asked me to do BYOD. Tell me what can I do about BYOD? I said, or they would come to me and say, hey Jay, I want to use social within my organization. All right, and I said, why? I know what I need to do. I need to have my product on Facebook. I need to use Yammer. I need to do that. I said, oh, okay, you have your Facebook page. So what? I need to have about 1 million likes on the Facebook. All right, that's great. So you have a KPI as well. Now, the next question becomes very difficult. What do you do with the 1 million likes? How does it matter if you have 10 followers or 10 likes or 1 million likes? What are you going to do with the social capital that you've so garnered? If you have 500 followers whom you're deeply engaged with, and I tell you what this engagement is all about, and you have 1 million followers whom you're not engaging with, which is potentially of more value to us as an enterprise, as an organization, or which is more effective from a consumer's point of view, right? Why is it that Nike is doing so very well when it comes to the user engagement? Why is it that some of the other organizations, which I wish not to name over here, have very huge followers, but yet their engagement is extremely poor? Right? And that is exactly what I call as a social. Social is not about having a Yammer implementation within the organization. It's not about having a Facebook or a profile or a Twitter handle. It's about the extent and the reach of engagement that you can potentially have with your stakeholders. And these stakeholders could be your employees, could be your vendors, your partners, your investors, or your end consumers. How much value are you providing to them for them having followed you? How well are you making use of the data that they have voluntarily provided to you, right? If I go to a Nike app, or I have a Singapore Airlines app now, and I go and say that install my app on my cell phone, I accept to the terms and conditions. Not sure how many of you actually go through the terms and conditions, but it say that I voluntarily give you access to my data, my SD card, my location, and You explicitly agree to provide data to the application, to the algorithms behind the scenes, right? And if Singapore Airlines is not making use of the data that I provide to them, what value is it to me as an end consumer? Now we did this for the Heathrow Airport. We built an application for them, and then we provided a lot of insights, and that's what Heathrow really loves about it. And we told them that, hey, you know what, the largest revenue earning department within Heathrow, I mean the Heathrow scheme of things, is can anyone take a guess? Come on, I'm really very jet lagged, folks. No, it is not. It is the parking division. That is the largest revenue earning department within Heathrow, right? And I said, hey, you know what? We can turn it on its head, and we can really get a lot of revenues, because there is a lot of passengers as transit within Heathrow. Heathrow is not the final destination. They transit through Heathrow to go to other places of the world. Right? And concessionaire retailing could be hugely possible if you provide personalized information, personalized services, personalized offerings to the transit passengers who are there, right? And that's actually happening as we speak, right? And we've done it for insurance companies, for banking, for extremely regulated life sciences and healthcare organizations, right? We've done it for retail. We've done it for, across the board. We have numerous examples as how we have taken a concept. Social is not about technology, and none of the social mobile analytics, and we had our friend Shobit this morning talk about cloud is not about technology also. It is about business, the business aspects of it. I talked to you about mobile. Mobile, it is an extremely personal device, right? The statistics state that the last thing the person does before hitting the bed is look at the cell phone, and the first things after the same person does is probably after waking up is probably look at the cell phone as well, right? It's an extremely personal device. Again, I'm not a very I'm not advocating for toothbrush over here, but it's as personal a device as my toothbrush, right? Which I will not share with my wife even. Right? Now, if you as an enterprise, as an organization, have access to such an extremely personal device that has the capability of providing information, critical information about what are my browsing habits, what are my buying habits, what are my locational coordinates, right? You really can work wonders out of it, right? If I were to go into a Target or a large, chain, I should be able to, with a tap of the button, I should be able to say, this is my weekly grocery that I'm going to be buying, if many of you are like me, and my wife gives me a list of, among other things, get the ice cubes as well. I'll be running 20 times in a Walmart, supermart, to find where the ice cubes are. But the application should be able to overlay the planogram of the retail store onto the bucket list that I have, and you say items number 3, 14, and 16 from your list is actually in this aisle that you're presently in. And then it should have a very seamless experience, and with a couple of checkouts, I should be able to go out of the supermart without even having to stand behind the physical tills, which apparently is the largest problem in UK, in Europe and US that the customers are facing. Now, what does it mean? If AJ goes and stands in front of the one of the rack which has say chips, say Pringles, right? If AJ goes and stands in front of it, and then he stands at this, he's been in this location for 2 minutes, and then the decision has been made. AJ picks up an item or not, right? Or in the process, he's gone and seen visited some sites which gives you Pringles jalapeno flavor versus whatever, some other just a plain flavor. It gives a lot of insight about what AJ is looking for. Probably AJ was looking for some flavor that it's not stored. Probably AJ was looking at something new. Probably AJ did not find in its first glance as to how the product should be stored or within the racks. From very simple things like that to some of the utilities discussions we've had with large utilities companies in the US, they want the sensors that are there in the smart grids not just to transmit information as to when a failure has happened, but we are working with them to come up with predictive models as to say we have all the information at this time. Most probably, the Makati area in Philippines is going to go out of power. We run such predictive models as well. It's just not about sensor giving you information and then acting on the trigger, but you have this information ahead of time. Or we go and talk to Google Cloud and say that, hey, you know what, this particular server is going to go down based on the historical information that you have provided to me. Right? So we run a lot of predictive models as to analytics, right? And we get a lot of information from the social networking sites as well. Right? We run not just sentiment analysis, we go beyond sentiment analysis to what is called as emotion analysis. Many of us in this room are from the BPO industry. Sorry, am I running out of time? So I'll just try to close it very fast. The BPO industry, I mean, if you, a customer services representative, if he knows how irate my customer is, what is the emotion behind this person? Is he fed up? Has he given up, or is she really angry or disgusted about the product service? Knowing the emotion behind the certain the problem gives us a lot of tangibility into resolving them. We go beyond emotional analysis to intent analysis, where we have very complex algorithms put together. And I thought this is very business-centric discussion, people over here, and I didn't get those slides over here. But believe you me, we have we have patented technologies to go do the intent analysis and say that if AJ searched a lot about a certain vehicle brand, how likely is AJ to go actually buy it, right? Is he just looking for information, or is he actually serious about buying it as well? And we go beyond the sentiment analysis to actually say that AJ is going to buy something, or if AJ is moved from let me take an example. We actually did this analysis and said that AJ posts on Facebook saying that I'm getting married, right? Not that I'm not married, but just take this example. Now you know that 80% of all social networking sites are accessed via the handles, right? So the moment they have accessing the social networking sites from the handles, you can very safely assume that the location coordinates are available with you. So AJ, let me take Spain as an example. AJ has posted this from Spain. The moment you know that location coordinates and what is the event is going to happen, you can have a marketplace of of things coordinated. You can say that AJ is going to, I don't know, AJ is going to visit a furniture shop within the next 3 weeks, and after getting married, and is probably going to visit a mortgage shop within 6 weeks of getting married, right? So you can align a marketplace, say the furniture shop, AJ is getting married, he's most likely to come and seek for an old or an archaic type of furniture, and based on my likes and preferences, right? And examples can really be multiplied. The moment you draw insights, critical insights of the data that you've so gathered from from the various data sources, or the moments of engagement as we call it, right? You have to have the scale, and we've enough spoken about scale from our discussions on cloud early this morning. So I want to actually say, what is it our customers are actually looking for? When you're talking of digital transformation or smackifying an organization, I'll just put this entire discussion into 3 buckets. Our customer, they are looking for an extremely rich, tailored experience. They are looking for an omni-channel coherence. They are looking for to be able to start a transaction on the social, continue it on the mobile, and probably close it on the internet, right, while at home, while on the move, anytime, anywhere. They want to be able to do more of self-service, and not being, they don't want to talk to our reps. They want to do more of self-service themselves, right? That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is, how do we digitize or smackify our own operational processes, right? The worker enablement, our supply chain management, our own operational processes, how do we digitize them? And most importantly, how do we draw insights from the data that is available? And the third and the most important aspect that many of us typically forget is we need to transform our business models as well. When in 2010 I was with Dell, and I was running the online program Dell.com, and to many of you who do not know, Dell runs on a zero stock inventory. That means the laptops don't actually realize themselves until you actually pay for it. Once AJ goes to www.dell.com, he configures the laptop and pays for it is after when the laptop is actually put across and shipped across to you. An Inspiron model alone has brought up 33 million possible configurations, right? And when I wanted to get into the mobile app for it, no way I could have 33 million configurations on a 4-inch real estate, right? There has to be a different model. So we went, we rank stacked them, and then said that for home users, these are the possible models. For a business user, these are the possible models. And we actually went into an Acer sort of a model, right? So a business model that had been perfected for 25 years had to be turned around and get into a model which our competitors have more access to and perfected at, right? That is about a business model change. When the user experience changes, when the data model has changed, when there is big data, when there's large amounts of data coming in very short spouts of time velocity, right? When you have both structured and unstructured information, when your app models are changing, when your data models are changing, when the process models are changing, and the business models are changing, we call it a business transformation. And ladies and gentlemen, I have done more than 100 sort of workshops to a multitude of our customers last year alone. And the Horizon 3 business of Cognizant closed last year with about $500 million of revenue from this SMAC business alone. Right? So there's a tremendous potential in the SMAC area, in the digital area, as to how we change the perception of the organization working and move them, bend the curve into a code rush and not into an extinction event. Thank you very much.